And there was finally someone else who became a scout for Maryland, because I was doing it for a couple months, like I said, a couple months at that point, and I was always kind of checking the website to see if they had brought in anybody else who was a scout for Maryland that I can maybe grab some lunch with, connect with, whatever it is. So they did. They happened. There was also another person. He had a basketball background, I had a football background. There was another person who eventually became a scout for Maryland. It happened to be a black guy. Happened to be another black guy. And I remember there was a huge women's basketball tournament in Richmond that he was going to go scout at this tournament, right? So he got there the day before. It was the whole weekend tournament. He gets there the day before, and then I get there after. Now, normally before, when I would go scout games, I wouldn't know anyone. I did it completely in the dark. I was in the dark. I wanted to go and really develop my eye for talent and see who can play and all that kind of stuff, right? So I didn't care where I was going. I would go on, I think it was like Max Preps or something like that, one of them websites where announced all the high school games and all the high school practices, what was going on. And I just go to the games with my clipboard, practice with my clipboard, and just take notes and figure out who is who. I made no judgments whatsoever. Now, this scout that I'm referring to, I can't even remember his name, but he obviously had a little more years on. He played, I think he coached at he did. He actually coached at a college. And the reason he took the job at NSR is because, he saw how many emails he would get from players that are looking to play in college and all that. So he left the college coaching job to become a college scout with NSR. So remember us working this tournament. We were working this basketball tournament together. And we saw this school. There was this school that was in this tournament that had it was pretty much all black girls. And there was a certain area that you could tell that they were from, right? And I'm getting ready to go, with my clipboard and, see who can play and all that. And he looks at me, he goes, "Look, they can't afford us, man." They can't afford us. So you waste your time, because this was a paid service. All right. Now, this was a black guy. This is a black guy telling me, again, someone who is coach is far more experienced than me. This was his lane. All right. This was women's college, women's high school, women's college basketball was his lane. I'm more of a football guy. So I was like taking his lead in terms of who I should talk to and who I should recruit and all that. I was just really taking his lead in regards to how I should go about approaching this situation. And before he even gives these girls a chance, he tells me they can't afford us. He takes 1/2 second look at them and says, "They can't afford us. Don't even waste your time." Now, here's the sad part. There's a black guy telling me this. Here's the sad part about this story. He was right. He was right. Because I remember actually being a scout and doing this on my own. And the reason it didn't work out with me at NSR is because I was willing to go recruit anybody. And I would go to certain schools. In certain areas that were predominantly black kids and black parents and black families and all that. I don't use the term black community because there's no actual such thing as a black community. So that's a word I don't use. But this was it's a group of the majority of people who were in these particular areas and in these particular schools were black. And I'd either get blown off, I'd call the parents to try to sit down with them. And the minute that they could sense that there may be a charge coming, in fact, there was one mother who didn't even let me go and sit down in the home and, at least present what it was I presented. And this is why it's a problem. Here's why it's a problem. It's a problem because I actually was doing the work. I was actually laying eyes on the kid. All right. It wasn't me just going about charging some service to somebody who can afford it. I was actually doing the job of a scout, which is to lay eyes on a kid and see if they can play, and then have the conversation about what the services may be and how you can afford it, how you can pay for it, all that kind of stuff. That's the way it should be. And the majority of people that blew me off were black people. It didn't matter that I myself was black and, the whole supporting black businesses and all that. No, that didn't matter at all. The only thing that mattered was, look, he's going to charge something and I don't even want to listen to what it is he has to say because there's going to be some money attached to it. That wasn't white people doing that to Aswan. These were black people doing this to Aswan. All right. So when I say debunking racism, I want you guys to understand that yes, racism exists, but it's not existing in the form, in the way in which it's normally being communicated to you from the mainstream media. Racism is a systematic way of thinking. It's a systematic way of thinking. And again, you're going to hear me repeat this over and over and over and over today. If you don't recognize when you're being moved into the system, then you will just become a part of the system, and it's going to start to get into your own type of thinking. It's going to start to bleed into your own subconscious mind to the point where you're not even realizing, hey, wait, I'm committing myself to the very problem that's making it harder and harder for people that look like me because of the system that I have subscribed to without realizing I'm a part of this. That's why it's so important that you do your own homework and you do your own research and you make sure you're teaching your young people the foundational things that it takes to survive.